Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, we are doing sort of a special live edition of Make It Plain right now because I have a very special and honored guest in studio. She's in town. We wanted you give you a chance to see her and greet her. We have such a great deal of respect for her. You will remember her most recently from what happened a few years ago during the Obama administration when she was fired from the USDA, the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Both the White House and NAACP ultimately ended up apologizing to her for that. But we thought it was timely to talk to her again, not only about what's happened since then, but specifically farmers are in the news. And she and her husband, I don't think there's any couple that's done more for farmers and the agricultural community than these two. They have been two dedicated servants on behalf of some of the rural places in America that many of us have gotten too sophisticated and sedity to remember. Amen. So we're so honored to have with us the wonderful, the glorious Shirley Sherrod. It's so good to see you.
Good to see you, and thanks for having me on.
It's a pleasure to have you, and glad you're here in New York. So tell us a little bit about what's going on here in New York. You're working with women, right?
Yes, I'm here with other women from Georgia, Alabama, and Mississippi who are a part of what we call the Southern Rural Black Women's Initiative for Economic and Social Justice. It's an it's not a formal organization in that it's not a legal entity because we decided we wouldn't create another legal entity. We would work through the three organizations, one in Georgia, one in Alabama, one in Mississippi. And we've been doing that since 2000.
Are these women involved in farming too?
Yes, there's several components to the work that we developed. Women in ag. So we actually have women who grow vegetables and market vegetables and teach young people how to cook vegetables and how to freeze them or can them. We have a Young Women's Leadership Institute, and we actually do that at Tougaloo College every year and work with young women throughout the year. We have a worker-owned sewing co-op. We figure a lot of women worked in sewing factories in earlier years, and those factories moved out of their area, taking those jobs away from them. And we decided to create a worker-owned sewing co-op, and they make some beautiful products. We have human rights commissions. We have 9 of them, 3 in each of the states that we've organized, and those women work on local issues. It could be around voting, it could be around education, or whatever the issues are in their communities. And I'm sure I've probably left one out, but those are some of the major issues that we've worked on.
That's outstanding. What is, because there was a lot of news even before what you were prominent back in the news about what was happening with black farmers in general and how many of our black farmers have lost their farms. Can you kind of give us a little bit about what is the state of black farmers today?
It's not a pretty picture. We are still losing farmers and losing land. Now, the thing that bothers me so much is everyone think we dealt with the black farmer problem when there was a black farmer lawsuit. But first of all, it didn't cover all farmers who had experienced discrimination. Only those, and not even all of those who experienced discrimination between 81 and 96. Why was that? Because when Reagan became the president, he abolished the Office of Civil Rights at USDA. So you had to have experienced the discrimination during that period. But there were so many who experienced discrimination prior to that and never got a chance to do anything about it. And then so many during that time who didn't hear about it until it was too late, to file a claim. So having access to credit is still a major issue for our farmers. And then having access to funds that will allow them, see, if you own 50 acres of land and that's not enough to grow the soybeans, the cotton, and corn that a lot of other farmers grow, but you can grow produce. Take, for example, our school systems. They all want to buy locally grown produce, but they don't want produce that hadn't been cut, washed, bagged, and ready to go in the pot when it gets to the school. So actually getting those facilities So having access to capital that will allow them. We had a company to give us our nonprofit a former Winn-Dixie store building and 3 acres of land worth about $2 million, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done to it. Can't get the city of Albany involved in trying to get that happen. Can't get USDA involved, and our farmers are poor farmers and don't have the money to put $1 million into that building.
And that's why you need the credit
Yes.
to make it happen.
Yes.
So this bailout that Trump is offering as a result of the tariffs, which we're hearing is devastating, particularly to soybean farmers. Will this bailout also help black soybean farmers, or is it only a bailout for white farmers?
Let me ask you a question.
Okay, please.
Do you think black farmers have ever been treated fairly?
No.
Now, what makes us think that they're going to be treated fairly with this $12 billion? We have some farmers who are big black farmers, but even they are not treated fairly,
right.
like they treat white farmers. So I'm saying it's just really difficult, especially now, to be a black farmer farming. It's so tough. You don't have family that really want to support that because they haven't seen a lot that comes from it.
Right.
You have black landowners who really should be doing something with the land that they own, black families, but it's so hard. If you can't come out of your pocket, then who can these days?
And as you said, if black farmers are already behind,
yes,
then any money that they might get, that they probably won't get from Trump,
right,
might just be enough maybe to catch them up
if they can get it. Yeah, because a lot of them, because they're smaller, try to deal with local markets. So if a lot of those large farmers have been exporting and they can't do that now, then that's going to help flood the local market that our farmers have been in. So it takes away part of the market that they've had.
Yeah. Trump's a mess, isn't he?
Yes.
Things are bad enough as they are. Now, I was reading that one of these new farm bills, though, has a little loophole in there. Maybe they weren't supposed to put it in there. Maybe they don't realize it's there. Maybe I shouldn't say anything about it so they won't notice it. But it was something about heirs property. Are you aware of that?
Yeah, I'm aware of it because it's what some of our organizations have worked to try to get in the farm bill.
Okay,
and
good.
So far, so good.
So that's your work.
That's not exactly mine, but some of the organizations who work with us.
So that's a good thing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And is that, you think, going to go through?
I hope so.
So just people understand, I want to try to explain it, see if I can explain it the way it's supposed to be explained. You can correct me if I'm wrong, of course. A lot of times when one owns land, one of our elders own land, and they pass on and there's no will, because again, the resources don't exist, y'all, to hire attorneys to help, do wills and all that kind of stuff. For years, that stuff would just linger and you'd have a bunch of relatives claim it and then ultimately no one would get it. But when now what would happen now when you have that situation, heirs as in plural, they would get some of the support and resources they need to resolve the property ownership and all of that, right?
Yeah, it takes a lot. I've had many cases. I'm not a lawyer, but I've worked on a lot of cases to try to solve them through the years. And it takes families get, let's say, coming out of slavery, the family managed to get 100 acres of land. So it's fine to leave it to the family with just maybe 6-10 people.
Right.
But then they all start having children, and they have children. You look up, you might have 200 people, claiming parts of this 100 acres. And you have 200 people who need to come to a decision on what happens with it. I've had cases where 2 brothers inherited land. One of them quit claim to the other one so that he could farm, got a lot of debt. Then that one decided to give it all back to the other brother, but the debt goes with land.
I see.
And so the brother who farmed died. And then the brother who had gotten it back had all of this debt. He died, but he had 11 children who wanted to save the 375 acres of land. So Farmers Home told me we can't deal with 11 heirs with this debt, but we'll deal with 4. So now you have to talk to the family to get the family to decide. 11 people need to decide that 7 of them will quit claim to 4 of them.
Oh, Lord.
That means you're giving up your right to the land
Yeah.
to 4 people in the family. But it happened.
Yeah.
And they paid it off, and now all 11 of them have the land. Now, that doesn't happen in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
Some will fight to say, I'd rather lose it.
But in this new legislation, that would help.
You'd have some mediation and
Okay.
so forth that would help to deal with it.
So in terms of what Trump is proposing is $12 billion, even the white farmers are saying that's not really going to help.
No, it's not. They'd rather have a free market,
Yeah.
to deal in. It's amazing to me that I've seen some of them saying, well, in fact, we grow pecans. We have 200 acres of pecans, and we're really going to be hurt with this because China is one of the major markets. And one of the consultants we have, who's white, sent me a message after, I think that came out on Wednesday or yesterday was Wednesday, on Tuesday or Wednesday.
Yeah.
And he sent me a message saying, I knew our president would take care of us. That's not going to help us when we bring one of the largest crops we've had in this fall.
Yeah.
What's going to happen to and that's our major crop.
Yeah.
We stand to lose big time.
And the price is already going down?
Well, we don't have the prices yet.
Okay.
Yeah, we won't start harvesting those pecans until September, October.
Wow.
So from October, end of September to Christmas, we'll be bringing that crop in.
So you mentioned how some people don't understand farming, and we clearly don't appreciate it like we should and like we used to.
That's hard work.
Oh, I know, clearly. And what keeps you and the other women you're working with and the other black farmers going then? I mean, what is the incentive for you all to sustain yourselves in an industry that still is not fair to you?
That's true. But we can't, we do not want to lose our ability to help feed us and our families.
Yeah.
I cringe to think about what would happen if black people are totally out of farming.
Yeah.
Just like you go out in a rural area now, you don't see many of us with gardens. When I was growing up on the farm, everybody had a garden. So we're losing that, and we are trying to bring all of that back. We do not need to lose our ability to put a few seeds in the ground so we can eat.
Yeah. My grandparents had a garden, and there was nothing like the fresh vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
When you eat fresh vegetables from a garden, y'all,
Yep.
it's a whole different.
That's true.
And
That's
you can tell.
true.
You can tell when it's fresh. Now, by the way, I saw another story too quickly, where some black farmers were sold some bad seeds. What was that about?
That and I don't know a lot about that. I
Okay.
did receive an email from someone saying, "Are you aware of this? And what do you want to do about it?" And I don't want to really comment on it because of where it was coming from.
But if that's true, I think I saw it in USA Today.
Yeah.
I'll try to pull it up. But
It was from the Mississippi, Memphis area.
That's right. It was actually.
Yeah,
it
and
was,
I know the guy who leads that, but I can't comment on it.
Okay, I understand.
Okay.
Shirley, Sherrod with us, folks. We should acknowledge. Well, first of all, let me say this. You and I had an interesting conversation on the phone the other day, if you don't mind me saying this. And we talked about the Breitbart came in studio with me not long after what he did.
Mm-hmm.
I called Ben jealous. I don't think Ben would mind me saying, because people didn't put Sherrod together. And, I called Ben. I called my friends at the White House. I said, you all know who Shirley Sherrod is. Well, what do you mean, Mark? You need to go back. You need to look up, Google Charles and Shirley Sherrod, the Albany movement, SNCC, and all that. And they were like, oh, my God, we finally got it.
Mm-hmm.
Breitbart came in. We were in a studio over here. It's up on YouTube, and we almost came to blows. I mean, it was a shouting match between me and him. It was very, very ugly. And he died not long after that. God rest his soul. But anyway, you said to me, though, that had to happen for a reason. Mm-hmm. What you went through in that whole ordeal. Can you talk to us about that?
Well, if you you'd have to look back at a lot of things that happened in my life, and one thing led to another, you know. And I look at, even looking at my father's death. Had my father not been murdered, and the man who murdered him just went free, then I probably wouldn't have been involved in a lot of the work that I've done through the years. And I know a lot of that work has been helpful to a lot of people as well as me.
Well, I want to let's do that for me because I want people to understand. You grew up in Albany, Georgia.
And it's actually Baker County.
Baker County, okay. Now, is Albany within Baker County?
No, Baker County is just south of Albany.
Just south of Albany.
The adjoining county.
White man killed your father.
Yes.
And this was over a dispute about
a cow.
A cow. You made a pledge.
Yes.
Because you could have gone on. You were thinking about coming up here to the north and
That's
being
true.
big time.
Yeah.
What would you have done? What did you know what you wanted to do?
Back then, I'm 70, almost 71 years old. So back then, black women could only think about teaching.
Yeah.
And so I thought I'd be one of the best teachers in this country.
Yeah. And you would have been. But you stayed.
I stayed.
Charles Sherrod, and I know this, folks, because, I'm on the board in Selma. And it was about almost 8 years ago or so that, Fire Rose at the Freedom Flame Awards gives couples awards, couples that have stayed together as a couple and been in the movement. And one year, I assisted her in presenting you and Charles with an award. And that's how I, remembered who you were. Charles was in SNCC. He brought the Albany movement to Baker County in Albany. You were telling me a precious story just outside. He saw a picture of you and said you were going to be his wife. Is that what happened?
That's exactly what happened. We had not met when he saw my picture and said, I'm going to marry her.
Wow. Isn't that something? Yeah. But back to the point, you said that what happened with Breitbart was meant to happen.
Yeah, because when you look back, see, Breitbart, they had gotten Van Jones, Reverend Wright.
Yeah, they had.
And then I was the next target. But he picked on the wrong person. He just said, I guess he had no idea that things would unfold in the way that they did to expose the lie that he had put out there.
Yeah.
But I told them at USDA, they told me to pull to the side of the road and use my BlackBerry to submit my letter of resignation. I did that, but I told them, you haven't heard the last from me.
Well, truth be told, I was somewhere in that mix. I called Joe Leonard, who worked for Vilsack. I said, Joe, what is going on? And they were trying. It happened so fast, they didn't even realize what had happened. It came from the White House and kind of bypassed the USDA and Vilsack and them. It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
I know we can't get into the details, but you sued.
Yeah.
And there was a settlement.
Yeah.
Okay, so we just want to acknowledge that, folks, that she did. Seek some justice and some concern. We can't disclose the details. Shirley, Sherrod, if you had the chance to say anything to Donald Trump about the way his tariffs are affecting farmers, what would you, if you went one-on-one with him? And we probably do it private too, like he did with Putin. We won't have anybody in there we'll keep it secret. But if you just one-on-one with nobody reporting on what happened, what would you say to his face?
I would say to him, especially in these small rural counties throughout the South, and I'm sure in Iowa and other places, look at what you're doing to these communities. We haven't figured out totally how to survive, but we survive somehow. And when you throw something like this into the mix, it just pulls the rug out from under you. And when you throw black farmers in that, when Lincoln created the Department of Agriculture, he called it the People's Department, but it's never been the People's Department for all people. So you have to really look at what you need to look at. I know that the Republicans don't seem to care about black people or people of color, but we are here and we're not going anywhere.
Amen.
And we're going to keep working and fighting for the things we know are right.
Amen. So tell us again, the women's group, the women's organization?
Yeah, it's the Southern Rural Black Women's Initiative for Economic and Social Justice.
All right. Do you all have a website or anything?
We do.
Okay. Do you know it off the top of your head?
I can't remember the website.
Tiffany, you know the website? srbwi.org. We'll tweet that too, folks, on this thread, srbwi.org, those of you watching us on Twitter. And then you're also still involved in the Southwest Georgia
Project. When my husband was one of the founding members of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee.
Amen.
And his work was called Southwest Georgia Project. So when Stokely said all whites needed to leave SNCC, we had a lot of white people working with us because my husband got his master's from Union Theological Seminary here in New York and recruited heavily from there. So that was when we sort of incorporated the Southwest Georgia Project for community education. And so that work started in 1961, and we've kept that active. Now, we also have new communities where we started a land trust. We started the first community land trust in the U.S. I was here early on, and we released the Arc of Justice, which is about that land trust work, and found that model is being used in a lot of cities. There are about 800 or so community land trusts in this country now. So, and then we used the money from the settlement at new communities because we were successful with the claim in the Pickford case, and we bought more land. You got to come down there and see it.
I do. We need to go down there.
Yes.
We need to go down there and see this. We need to go down there, Sean. We need to go down and check this out.
It's a former plantation.
Really?
It was a slave plantation. Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. And that's in where's?
In Albany.
That's in Albany.
The property line comes right up to the city limits of Albany.
Southwest Georgia Project. You know the website for that too, Tiffany?
That's it. And then New Communities is, I'm sorry, I can't remember it.
Okay, we'll find it. We'll put it out there. You all heard her say they left SNCC when Stokely Carmichael, then to become Kwame Ture, expelled whites from SNCC. And yet Breitbart tried to make our queen here appear to be racist when she has always worked with others. And I'm sure even today, white farmers appreciate your help and your advocacy. And that was the story you were telling.
Yes.
That they edited and cut out.
Yeah.
So, folks, I hope everyone understands that, white farmers are organized, and they're upset about this. They say they're not going to accept what Trump is saying or doing. They don't think it's going to help. Same thing applies to farming. White folks catch cold, black folks catch cancer.
That's right. We get pneumonia when they have a cold.
Amen. And we got to do something about that. We want to keep up with Shirley. It's such an honor, and I'm glad we were able to coordinate this and have you come in here. I have the utmost respect for you and Charles.
Thank you.
And give him my love.
Okay.
And doesn't she look great, folks? Doesn't she look wonderful? Shirley Sherrod, folks, our very, very special guest here on Make It Plain. Please keep her and her work and her husband and all the great work they've done, all the things they've built in your prayers eternally. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Ms. Sherrod. All right, take care now.